He'd been in Miami for 3.5 weeks.
No.
Rehabbing, yeah. So we come back, we repeat the scan. It's like the duttiest scar you've
Hello everybody, I'm Ben Foster. Welcome to another Fozcast. Today I've got my mate Tomasi next to me. How are you, mate?
All good, mate. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm still a little bit injured, nothing major, but I'm getting there.
Along?
It's okay. I've just been for another scan today. It's kind of actually it's a good job. The guy that we're talking to today, we can bring him in a second because he will have a lot more information about it than what I know. But it's basically a little kind of hamstring, glute tendon tear, something or other. It's a little bugger. It hurts. I'm getting old, and I think these things just take longer.
So I can say, "Oh, that sounds nasty," but now we introduce someone that can add proper insight.
Exactly. So the guy that we are talking to today, who at the tender age of 27 became the Premier League's youngest first team doctor. I know him as Doc. To everybody else, he is Matt
Ogunsanya.
Matt Ogunsanya.
We have just practiced that off air and Ben's forgot.
It went completely out of my head. Doc, how you doing, mate?
No, I'm absolutely great. Buzzing to be here. Good to see you again as well, obviously. Yeah, wicked. Yeah, and also everyone calls me Doc anyway. So
yeah, you are known. I literally don't call you Matt. I don't call you anything other than Doc. So before we start, Doc, right? Before we get into the actual talk and about my injury and anything else and all this other stuff, we always start with a little bit of like an icebreaker questions, all right? So we've actually got 2 icebreaker questions now. The first one which is completely off of what we're about. We're trying to talk about medicine, we're trying to talk about like health and all this kind of stuff, but the question is, if you had to pick 3 people, dead or alive, to go out on the lash with, who are your 3 people to go out with? You're in pub, club, whatever you want to do.
So wait, so is this a nice sort of quiet drink?
No, it's carnage.
You're having it.
Yeah,
Night out,
meeting up, going for a big
out
one
and drinking beers.
Yeah, but it's like, all right, okay. Anyone high profile, dead or alive?
No, not high profile. Anyone.
Dennis Rodman.
That's the best yet.
Dennis Rodman. If you've watched The Last Dance, what a guy.
Loose cannon.
Honestly,
that's world class, though.
Honestly, I'd probably take Carmen Electra along as well.
My gosh.
Okay, right. Let's go for the triple threat now. Who are we going to finish it off?
What if you know what? If we're going with people and things that I like, it would be between a comedian or a magician.
Come on then.
Yeah.
Comedian would be Will Ferrell. Just love his movies.
Brilliant.
And he's got that rogue streak about him in his movies. They kind of go off, and I think he'd be good.
Old school. I watched it last night. Frank the Tank.
You know what I mean? He's got that sort of like raw comedy energy. And Frank the Tank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You watched it last night?
Old school.
Good lad.
It's a film.
Fill it up again.
It's an unbelievable film.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I want to hear The Magician. This is incredible, by the way. You've been the best yet, by the way. This is the best yet
already.
Magician. Anyone who's just...
Don't say Paul Daniels.
I'm thinking Dynamo or someone like that. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So the thing is, magicians at the best of time, you don't know what they're going to bring to the table. So people seem to give them a hard time. I think they're great. But after a few pints, they're making pints disappear. They're making shots arrive.
Yeah. We can do that.
Okay, so we've never done a ranking system on our 3 people to go out with. Though. But you are definitely at the top, okay?
Dennis Rodman won it on his own.
World class. Dennis Rodman, Carmen Electra, Will Ferrell, and maybe even Dynamo in the mix.
Right, so with Dennis Rodman, I'm guessing, piecing it together here. So on Instagram, you're known as Doc in the Arena.
Indeed.
And I was trying to figure out, me and Fozzie were chatting and going, Doc in the Arena, Sports Arena, where's that come from?
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, that's come from basically, it's something LeBron James goes on about quite a lot, and I follow basketball quite closely, and it's based on the concept of like the man in the arena. So that's like, it's a part of a speech that he uses to help motivate himself, where essentially he talks about being the man in the arena and blocking out all like the haters and people that are criticizing him, because he's the one actually doing the stuff. So athletes such as yourself and people putting themselves out there are the man in the arena and saying, you know, they should be applauded for putting themselves out there. So I remember at the time when I was going to start the YouTube, I was a bit apprehensive because I was like, oh, you know, I'm a doctor. Should I really be putting myself out there? I'm in sort of a high profile-ish job. And then it kind of came to my head. I was like, man in the arena, doc in the arena. And I just thought, I'll go with it. You know what I mean? You can't overthink these things. So I just sort of said, go for it. Yeah.
I think that flashed through my head a little bit. I'm a footballer. Should I be doing this YouTube thing? But then I thought, nah, sod it. We're doing it.
Literally exactly the same thing.
Well, you said earlier on whose brainchild was GoPro in the goal. And I'd love to say it was mine, but it wasn't. And you said, we talked about it on the last podcast, said, I'm doing it. And we were like, okay.
It's a banger though, isn't it, Doc? It's nice.
Like, one of the best things on YouTube. You were actually one of the people that encouraged me. It's the type of thing that you probably don't even remember. Like, do you remember when I started doing the videos in the training ground and I don't know if I showed you or someone else showed you it and everyone else was kind of winding me up. But Foz was like, no, this is wicked actually. This is all right.
It was nice. It's a way, we'll talk about YouTube in a minute, but quickly to let you know, guys, so Doc has his own YouTube channel where if a real kind of massive sports star name, it doesn't even have to be massive really, but anybody in the sporting arena gets a really bad injury on field, in play, in front of the watching world, you will basically break it down, tell you exactly what has happened and the prognosis for it, what their kind of rehab's going to be, what the timelines, all that kind of stuff. It's super informative, guys. So if you haven't been over to Doc's channel yet, get yourself down in the description, and the link in the description down below. It will take you to his class. Honestly, it's really informative. You've had a banger as well, didn't you? The Conor McGregor one.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but I liked it. That was a good video.
How many views you got on that now?
That's coming up to 600,000.
It's nice, Doc.
Yeah, that was a decent one.
It's nice, Doc. It's nice. And also, sorry, but while we're on the topic of icebreaking, I just need to ask your first ever teenage crush.
Oh, God. Britney Spears. Britney Spears. Like,
that's it, yeah.
The thing is, I mean, you can't disagree with that, though.
Well, how old are you, Doc? 31?
I'm 31, yeah. So
I reckon I was 17 or 18 when it was released, so...
And
yeah, you're 5, 6,
and she was dressed as a schoolgirl, and at the time, obviously being in school, that was normal. Now looking back,
this fine. Don't you worry about that. Don't you worry about it. Right. So, all right, let's move on. Okay, so it's just been the transfer deadline. It's just passed. You've been obviously a Premier League doctor for how long were you at Watford for? 4 years.
4 years.
So you're a Premier League doctor at Watford for 4 years. You must have dealt with a lot of transfers, ins and outs. Yep. How stressful is that deadline day when you have to get deals over the line and people are basically waiting on you to give it the green light?
Extremely stressful. It's a lot of fun though. It's like kind of a good stress because like obviously you kind of like the
chaos.
fact. Yeah, it's total chaos, which is, you know, you get used to dealing with it and you do enjoy it because obviously you're the one who kind of knows what's going on apart from like the people making the transfer.
You mean what stage it's at? What stage exactly, the deal is at? Okay, yeah.
And normally you kind of know it's going to go quite well. The moment so basically what kind of happens is that out of the blue, you'll get a message or you'll get called into a room and they say, okay, there's this player we want to do a medical for, right? So then you go and do something called like due diligence. So right away, you go back and you look at their availability. So that's like the number one thing. Basically, are they playing already? Yeah. So if they're playing already, there's like an 80% chance that they're going to pass the medical. So already you're kind of relaxed and you're just looking forward to getting it done and add in your part. So that's good. But what the problem is when you hit a snag, because when you hit a snag, all of a sudden then the pressure's on. When you examine someone, you're like, oh, that knee's a bit swollen actually, or that MRI is a bit.
Have you come across a couple of them? Yeah.
Oh yeah, a couple.
Really?
I've had an awkward one once where you've had a player that I think pretty much it's like an awkward when the club really want to sign someone and you're like, well, you can sign them, but I can't change what I've seen. The moment you've seen it, you can't
so at this point, the club have agreed a fee with the other club.
The player's there. The player's on the training ground.
Player knows that the deal is close to being completed. Yeah. He's on his way to. Well, he's not on his way. He's there. He's getting looked at by you right now.
And then you're chatting to them, and they're like, you know, I've come down here, looking forward to it. You're building a rapport, and then you see one thing, or you get the email through of the scan, and you're like looking at the player like.
Oh my God, so you've got the keys to the kingdom, really, because if you've got the chief exec going, Doc, how are we getting on, or whoever it is going, are we done? And the player's there going, yeah, I'm ready, and you're like,
that's not keys to the kingdom. That's pressure. That's serious pressure.
It's horrible, but you can only do your best, but it's like
you say, you can't change the truth, can you?
You can't change the truth, but it does. it's a difficult day. Like most players, fit, playing, you're transferring one club to another, no issue. But it's when you hit those snags on transfer deadline day, people are asking, this needs to get done by this time. Okay, oh wait, now he needs to go and see a specialist. They're like, they're rumming and ahhing you. They're basically having they're being like really passive aggressive, and you're like, listen, the guy's knee's the size of a grapefruit.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Like, what do you want me to do? It's a nice pressure, but it's one hell of a day.
It's interesting though, Doc, because I look at it over the years and you hear lots of stories as a fan, and you hear about players that kind of limp through training and they just get ready for match day. And as a doc, you must be like, the documented one was Ledley King. It was like, he didn't train for the last 7 years of his career or whatever. Obviously he was at Spurs, but if you get someone, surely that it must be a slight kind of scenario where it's like, well, they kind of soldier on to a point. But when you're buying £1 million, £10 million, £20 million players, you can't take that risk.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because you make a good point. It's like, what it is so, because some people, like my friends will ask me, oh, have you passed this person's medical? Have you failed this person's medical? It's not actually like that. It's basically giving information that will help the club decide. So you might see a player and you might think, okay, you're talking to a specialist, you've seen the scan. This player, you've already done your due diligence. You see he can play. Like by hook or crook, some reason he's been playing 80% of the game. So we can't say he's unfit. He's clearly fit. But what it might mean is, okay, I wouldn't advise giving him a 5-year contract. I'd advise maybe a 2-year contract and see how he is with an option.
So it might change. So you're sort of it's facts basically.
Yeah,
so if something's flaring up on the scan, if something's obvious there in front of your eyes, it will change the kind of the length of contract and even the contract terms, how much wages he might be on. He might, at this point, the club might want to structure it slightly different, where they'll say, right, okay, we're going to give you a slightly less basic wage, but if you play
appearances,
your appearance fee will be higher. That's what you're saying. Exactly.
So it's one of those things where you have to be honest. You just have to give your opinion and see what happens. Basically, I think there's been one player where I've sat down and I've said, I think this could be a very difficult, might be quite a risky signing. You just give your risk assessment basically.
Yeah.
And then I think the club said, oh no, we'll wait until January.
Do you ever think there's ever been a player that's come and he's obviously like got in bits and he can't play and whatever, and he's gone to the doc, just get it over the line, I'll give you a bag of cash, I've got 20 grand in the car, please get it over the line, doc, come on.
You get a lot of players who are like, it's all right, yeah? It's all good, yeah? It's all good. Oh, I've had that for a while. And then you're like, ugh.
Have you ever kind of had someone like on a transfer deadline or something like that, where a player's coming from medical and you've looked up one look at it and gone, fucking wow, the hell is this guy even playing football?
Yeah, loads. To be honest, like footballers, they put their bodies through a lot. Like, if you're playing anyone over the age of maybe 28, 29, you start seeing signs of wear and tear and you're like,
and that's because they've been playing... Because they've got a lot of miles on the clock.
Yeah. Simple as that.
Because I've got a theory, and it's not theory really. I don't know what it is, but when you look at the wonder kids that come through, Michael and Wayne Rooney, a lot of them by 31,
burnout
are kind of done at their absolute peak. And is that just because they broke on so early, and it's the demands of the game?
Well, I guess in the sense that, like, when we assess risk, we look at it as injuries per game or per 1,000 hours. Like, that's how we kind of analyze it. So if you're 1,000 hours at the highest level, if you've got more, your risks are going up. So if you get a knee injury at 17, 18, okay, you've seen the youngsters, they can bounce back easily, but then the damage is in the knee. So at 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, it just gets more difficult. And furthermore, as you said, like, if you've got injured early doors and you play through that because you want to play through that and this, that and the other, you're the star, you're starting this, that and the other, but you're dealing with that same pain at 30, 31, where actually your minutes might be coming down, or you felt you've achieved everything you need to achieve, then once the psychological and the physical level starts to come down, then you're kind of... I don't like using the word done because everyone's got like a place or a level, but
you're not what you were.
And like, obviously, like to play at the highest level all the time, to take all that pressure, you need a lot in the tank. So yeah, I think starting earlier is a risk factor for finishing earlier. Yeah, you see, great players, Joe Cole, this, that and the other, like started early, superstar, injury, and then by early 30s quite difficult for them.
I'll tell you one thing quickly, Doc, I've noticed as well is a lot of the younger players that you seem to get through, even just talking about Watford, for example, you get a lot of players that will come up through the academy, then they get to train with the first team.
Yeah.
And when it's almost like for the first couple of weeks their adrenaline's absolutely buzzing, and they're really good, they're really, really good, and then you'll have a little bit of a lull where they're a little bit off it, and then it's almost like it's a given that they'll get an injury, they get some monster injuries, like massive hamstring tears, massive like cruciates, ankles, all sorts of bits and bobs. Is this why
when you talk about players breaking through, like I don't know, like Mason Greenwood when he came through and people like that, this whole thing of we're gently integrating them, we'll just drip feed them in, is that a thing?
Yeah, it is, but at the same time, what you got to appreciate is academy football to first team football. When you're in first team football, it's about the outcome. You know what I mean? So it'd be nice to say, Mason, you're quite a good player, give him 20 minutes here, 30 minutes building up. But the reality is, if you're scoring in training, we want you to do that out on the pitch. I don't know if you agree, but like from a sort of backroom staff point of view, it's like, okay, if you're good enough, you're good enough. You're in.
Yeah, once you're in the first team, you're in the first team, and that's it. You're the same as everybody else. If you're called upon on a Saturday afternoon, you're doing a job. And every club's different as well. Like you say about Mason Mount there, Chelsea have probably 3 or 4 Mason Mounts, but of a different age group kind of thing. They've got different players like that who can still do the job on a Saturday. You know, if you're one of these up and coming young players at a smaller club, you're one of the best players in the team. You're needed to do it, so you are just getting. You're not getting flogged, but you are a little bit, aren't you? You're getting chucked out there to do it
because they're not putting you on because we really like you and we want you to be. No, we need 3 points. That's it. So we're putting you on to score.
What about the burnout thing? So when you talk about like Harry Kane, there was a period when he did. I think he did 2 seasons where he did like the Euros or something, he did the under-21s or whatever, and he went on, then they did the Euros, and he didn't have that sustained period, and people are saying burnout, need more players, and then you talk about mid-season breaks. I look at it and kind of think, okay, well, they play and whatnot, but how much rest do you need at that top level? Like, do you need, I need a period of 3 or 4 weeks where I'm ticking over doing my fitness work in the off-season?
It's a good question. It's a good question because everyone needs rest psychologically, even more.
I think psychologically is bigger than the actual resting your muscles. I do that
because physically, I would say I'd agree because physically you can manage throughout the week. A lot of teams manage their players throughout the week in one way or the other. You can't assume every single player is doing full training every single day. They might be. We do our best to manage them throughout the season, but at one point, you need to break the monotony. You need to break the stress cycle. Like some players might not feel it, but most players, after a certain period, the expectations in the first team, particularly to perform, it basically builds up what we call a stress cycle. So every day, as much as you're enjoying it, you feel that bit of stress, you feel that bit of pressure. And if you don't have breaks in that, you will burn out. And that's in any profession, pretty much. So I'm to be honest with you, I'm surprised more top footballers don't burn out. I think that's a credit to them, their resilience. And I think that's why only certain personalities and people make it to the top and have sustained runs at the top. Like, you kind of get what I'm saying? It's almost self-selecting. So on paper, Harry Kane probably does need the rest, the physical, the mental rest. But equally, he's kind of self-selected himself by the fact that he can perform every season, 30 goals. He's got a golden boot. He's got a pair of golden boots for every day of the week, isn't he? Like
World Cup golden boot. He's got friggin'...
you know what I mean? Those type of players, those type of individuals self-select themselves to the top. So it's a bit of a weird balance that on paper you should need rest.
I think footballers do get a tarnished with a bad rep sometimes. Some of it, when you look at like the diving and stuff, you go kind of, okay. But it's part of the game, whether you like it or not. But what interests me, and we always talk about it, is like retirement and when people stop playing, what's that mean for them on a day-to-day? But actually, I spent a bit of time with footballers and stuff, that actually at 35, 36, 37, when you stop playing, players that have had bad injuries,
in bits.
15 years older, 20 years older than what they actually are, aren't they?
They're in bits. So, like I say, I'm 38 years old and I have had a lot of injuries. And, I say I do a lot of cycling, that, Doc. And I would like to attribute the fact that I'm in pretty good shape still down to my cycling. But I do. I see a lot of 100%. Footballers out there who are my age and like they've retired and they are in a bad way. They're stiff as a board. Backs are stiff, hammies, all that kind of stuff. They put their weight on because they don't want to do the exercise because it hurts. It's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
You're 100% right, and honestly, it's something that I try and think about now, like when I'm with players now, because I think when you're in it, when you're match, there's certain things in certain times where you say to the player, consciously, subconsciously, or the coach, or whatever, says, right, okay, can you play through this? And the answer is yes, but is the question, should you play through this? Okay, can he come back in 6 weeks? Yeah, but actually, if for each injury he waited 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, okay, you lose 6 weeks there, but could that add 3 years to your career?
That's a lot of the pressure. That's the pressure from the manager and the people above the manager there, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's a difficult one for me, but it's honestly something I talk to other colleagues about and think about, because it's like when you say to a player, okay, you can have this procedure now, you can have this injection now, and you kind of say, yeah, in the future it could cause arthritis, and it's probably bad for your knees, but you can play now.
Is that the club's worry? Should it be? Is it two different questions?
Well, the club's worry versus the medical staff's worry, that's another interesting question and debate, but I don't know, it's a good question to ask you, like when you were like 25, 26 and someone said, and you've broken into the first team, you're Man U, whichever, and someone says to you, okay, your knee's swollen, this, that and the other, we could wait 6 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever, and try and get the swelling down, or we can drain it, give a steroid, and you can probably play on with no pain. When someone then mentions afterwards, I'm sure they do, to you, in the future, it could be bad for your knees long term, you probably don't really.
No, I don't know. This is where the doctor of any football club has to. The players have to respect that doctor, because they need to know that the players need to know that the doctor has their best interest at heart, and he's looking after the player. Whereas for a fact that but a lot of clubs will put pressure on you to play, because they need you to play. Well, they need you to perform. It's as simple as that.
I watched Wayne Bridge recently in an interview, and he said that he had a really kind of tight, or really whatever, I think it was hamstring or something, and Mancini was saying to him, you've got to play, and he was like, I don't think I should, and he said within the first 10 minutes he sprinted and tore it.
Ripped it. Yeah, so this is what I'm saying though. And it sounds bad, like they're just sort of put you out there, and if you break and fail, then all right, cool, you were struggling. You're actually broken, then we'll put someone on in your place. But no, I think this is where there's a lot of pressure comes from above you, and a lot of younger players in football, they haven't got the know-how, the ability, the experience to be able to say, no, I'm injured, I can't do this, I can't carry on doing it. And this is where, like I say, you need to have the doctor in your corner, but it takes a strong person to be able to stand up to that manager, to that chief exec or whoever it might be, say no, he's going to break. If you do it, he'll break, because they can easily say no, I don't care. You say he's playing, or else you're out the door, and it literally can come down to that.
It's a difficult one. I've been fortunate enough to not have too much pressure, but the reality is their job is about performances now. Everyone's on a 10 game, 15 game sort of timeline. That's particularly obviously where we are.
Yeah, for sure.
So they have to think about that, but then the player has to think kind of, I don't know if they do, because it depends on their situation, their contract situation, whatever, but they have to think about their life going forward. And then the doctor's kind of in the middle. But you'll have it both ways though. You'll have some players saying, no matter what, I'm playing. No matter what, I want to play. I want to get back in the team and this, that and the other. But once or twice, I've had players come up to me sort of privately and say, listen, I'd like to take my time with this, because I think I've got 3 or 4 years left. I've got a daughter or a son at home, and I want to be able to go skiing with them or play tennis with them. And I've seen other players who can barely walk after their career. I don't want to be that person. So it's a tricky one. It's honestly a tricky one. And for me, I think it's about properly, as Ben said, talking to the player, understanding what their wants and needs are. And I think the fairest thing any doctor or physio working in sport can do is at least give the proper information to the player. Not just say, yeah, we'll do this injection, the side effects of this, sort of bang through it. No, be like, listen, you've had this before, this will, your knee's in a bit of a condition. The options are, we give you the steroid injection, we'll give you whatever. You come back in 3 weeks, or you wait 12, 13 weeks to come down. That's a massive difference in a season.
For sure. This is where I think a lot of fans don't see the person side of it. They see him as a player. They see him as a commodity. They're a performer. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas no, that person has a family, has a life. He has to think about after football what he might be able to do, this, that, and whatever. And these are where the decisions. They're really important. The right decision has to be made because it's really, really important. I want to bring it back a minute ago because we were talking about medicals, and I remember personally myself when I remember signing for Birmingham when I think I was 26 or 7, and my knee was I was in a really bad way because I had 2 cruciate reconstructions in my right knee, right? And I had a couple of sort of cartilage removals, all that kind of stuff. And I've gone for my medical at Birmingham. I was leaving Man United. I've gone for my medical at Birmingham. Okay. And it's flagged up a few bits and bobs. And, they were kind of like, well, to be fair, you're fit. We've had a look at you, and you look fine, blah, blah, blah. Cool. So passed the medical. Yeah. Played a whole season at Birmingham. And towards the end of the season, my knee was I was struggling a bit, to be fair.
Remember when you'd done it at Liverpool?
Yeah,
we had to. Me and Luke had to carry him, carry you into the training ground.
Oh, it was in bits. Yeah, it was massive. Yeah, but the next season I went to West Brom, and I had to pass a medical there again. And in that year's space, I've redone my medical, and he's literally shown me the scans side by side. And in the space of the year, the deterioration in my right knee, honestly, massive. Yeah, massive. Yeah. And I remember him. He was like, "Yeah, but." You played all last year, and it was like, it feels fine though, doesn't it? I remember the doc saying it feels fine, doesn't it? And I was thinking, well, no, actually, it doesn't. But,
it's going to fall off.
But I wanted to sign for West Brom. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to sign a 3 or 4 year contract at West Brom.
What are you going to say?
Exactly. So I remember him saying, but it feels all right, doesn't it? And like I say, I'd played literally every game last season. I was like, yeah, it feels fine. It doesn't feel any different. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking, get this over the line. It's a 4-year deal. Takes you to 31, 32. Boom. You know what I mean? You're sorted after that.
Exactly, that's the thing. That's the type of dynamics. You got the club saying obviously you want to sign. The doctor can, remember what I said about due diligence. You can't, if you've seen the players played all of last season, it's very difficult for you then to say to the club, "Oh, this player's not fit." It's very it's an unusual thing, a difficult argument. And then you've got the player who's like, "Well, I think my knee isn't in great condition, but what am I going to give up my career? In your prime." Mate, it's tough.
And what about the advancements? Because you look at so Fozzie, you've had one player that sticks in my mind is Danny Ings. So when he was at Liverpool, he's done his.
He was in bad way, wasn't he? Yeah.
Came back for a month or two.
You did it again. Danny Ings for a good year and a half, 2 years. Yeah,
it was 2 years, and then you look at him and go, wow! And look at the player he is.
Yeah.
And what the question I guess is looking back 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Would he have been finished in the game? I know it's difficult.
It's a difficult one to say, but 10 years...
20 years ago,
20 years ago. What I'm talking about is advancements.
I've been playing 20 years, though.
No, but you know what? Wow. Yeah, that is true, yeah.
Yeah, 25 then. Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of advancements. I think there's been advancements in technology. I don't know, when you started your career, was there Game Ready? Game Ready is about...
No, we didn't have Game Ready. We used to...
What's a Game Ready?
A Game Ready, basically, guys, for people that don't know, it's I honestly think it's one of the best things. Honestly, if you've got bad joints, bad swollen knees, ankles, whatever it is, it's the one thing that I couldn't have got to where I am without, honestly. It's an icing machine, a compression and icing machine, where you put ice in this machine and some water, it pumps it through a hose to a sleeve that you've attached over your knee or your ankle, like I say, whatever it is, and it will compress the life out of it, doesn't it? It's incredible. Yeah. And freeze it at the same time. It gets rid of so much swelling. They are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I remember when I did my knee cycling, you brought one round. You were going to play snooker. Ben was going to play snooker, and I'd done my knee cycling, and he said, I'll bring round this Game Ready machine ready for you. He's coming through the door with this equipment like that, and I was like, what the hell is all this? Like, put it on, and I was like, it's absolutely, I feel like my leg's going to freeze and fall off. It was a weird sensation.
They proper work.
Oh, they work. They're $3,000 to be fair. Like, they're expensive. I've had to have one. Yeah, I had to.
But this is the side that people don't see, isn't it? Because you're diligent with your recovery and everything, and you used to use it regularly, didn't you?
If I play a game,
maintenance.
If I play a game now, I have to have the Game Ready on after the game straight away. As soon as the game's finished, I have to put the Game Ready on.
Don't talk yourself out of your next contract just yet, mate.
I know. Yeah. Actually, no, my knee's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I can battle on like a loyal old soldier.
I'm golden. Right, Doc. So, how does being a doctor happen? Do you know what I mean? Because for like me and you, Tom, for example, we can't be doctors.
Oh, we're not smart enough.
Well,
mate.
we're not smart enough to be doctors. How does being a doctor happen?
You have to have strict parents, man.
Really? Is that what it was?
My mum, she always wanted me to be a doctor. Always indoctrinated me into being a doctor from a young age.
Was your mum or dad anything to do with medical profession?
So my dad was a doctor, right?
Okay.
And he was a gynecologist for a long while.
Okay.
And my mum was just like, oh, just do what your dad's doing. So there's a video of me.
Just do what your dad's doing.
Like,
we can't go there.
But there's a video.
There's a big joke in there somewhere.
There's a video of me at 6 years old, right? Jeremy Beadle came to our school, and it was like a little... They interviewing the kids. It's like a weird little thing in retrospect, yeah. And he was like, "Oh, what do you want to be when you're older?" And like, all the kids were like saying, "I want to be like an astronaut, this, that, and the other." And I flat out said, "I want to be a gynecologist."
To Jeremy Beadle.
Yeah.
Did he make a joke?
He didn't say anything. But looking back, I remember everyone laughing in that video, and I just didn't get it. But now looking back, I must have been looked like some weirdo pervert.
Or you were some kind of genius comedic child.
Weirdo child.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Not comedic. That's weird, mate. So
Yeah.
once they look at...
But
anyway.
But yeah, no, I think it was one of those things where it was kind of just like I was just kind of good at like sciences at school, and that it's just like the.
So how many years do you have to study to be a doctor? Did you in particular?
So it's 6 years uni.
Wow.
Then you got to do like 2 years in the hospital, like training, but you're technically qualified.
In the NHS?
In the NHS.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. Is that how's that happen? What's that like? Because I can imagine that is a million miles away from working for a Premier League football club.
Was that London NHS?
London, yeah. It was
so
over
you've
at
seen
Royal London. Yeah, no, it was good. It's like good for your training and stuff, but it's not working in football. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure. It's like really like crazy busy. But like, I'll tell you what though, it is nice. Like it's fun. Like you're working with other doctors and this, that, and the other. A lot of interesting like cases and stuff. Like,
so you don't get people coming in with hamstring strains.
No, you don't get in NHS. I'll just send you home. So well, you walked in. You can walk out.
It's a bit tight.
So what did you? So working in London, I can imagine then you get to see some pretty naughty things. Are we talking kind of stabbings and shootings or anything like that kind of thing?
Yeah. So East London can be a rough place, apparently. Yeah. So you see, I did A&E ended up doing that for about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Alongside like sports. And yeah, you see all sorts. Like I remember seeing one person. I'm pretty sure this was on the news. One person A&E I was working out. I won't shame them with a name. Like it's a great story. I saw someone get stabbed in A&E.
In the actual...
So what happened, right?
Didn't have far to go there.
Wow.
The thing is though, it's just not even hyperbole, right? So what happened was that I'm like up the top of like, imagine like there's a room, like I'm at the top of the room with this guy who's having like quite a bad asthma attack, right? And he's one of the mandem, yeah. So he's sort of coming through.
One of the mandem. You said one of the mandem. I love this stuff. I love you, Doc. I do.
He's coming through, okay? And he's coming through.
Mandem.
He's walking down. Bear in mind, this guy is having an asthma attack, right? And then as you walk towards the door, there's someone like sitting on a bench. Yeah. So they're facing towards you as you're coming through. And this guy's having like a sickle cell crisis. So he's in pain and like he's just having painkillers and sitting there. Okay. For some reason, they lock eyes. And the one that was sitting down was like, "What are you looking at?"
Oh, no.
And I was just like, "What?"
They don't know each other.
To my knowledge, they don't know each other. He goes, what are you looking at? Oh, this, that, and the other. And this escalated to the extent that this guy with sickle cell, he brings out this knife and he swings around. So security came. A couple of the nurses were sort of breaking up. I'd scattered by this point.
I'm out.
I'd gone to get security and dip, right? But I'm watching this.
Someone's having an asthma attack here.
The thing is, I'm not even like hyping up. This is exactly what happened. He swings round with this like pocket knife or whatever, slashes him like in the side, and then gets taken away, this, that, and the other. And I'm sitting there thinking, what a time to be alive. Like, so in the end, I had to say to this guy, obviously, like, he's having he's had his nebulizer, he's settled down a bit, to stitch him up. I think, how many stitches I put in the end? I think I put at least 16.
Wow.
In the end, like all around there, like, fortunately, it wasn't deep or anything, like slashed him. And I'm thinking to myself, that's when I thought,
So when this guy rings his mum and goes, "I'm having to go in because I'm having an asthma attack," and then goes, "I've been to hospital, how was it?" "Yeah, all right, I got stabbed."
But it's literally exactly what happened. I'm surprised if this wasn't like in the news somewhere or something. But yeah, it's like a known thing in our department, which is a very good department otherwise for anyone.
Is that when you decided you wanted to go into football?
That was when I was like, I could do this A&E stuff. That was exciting.
It's all this, yeah.
I bet the drunk people were the worst, weren't they, coming in?
To an extent, it depends. Like, one thing I'd say about them coming in was largely they were quite docile by that point. They'd had a long night, so you just put them in like a room and they just sort of sleep it off,
mate.
And like if you're stitching them, they don't move around.
They can't feel it. Yeah. What's the worst waste of time for people in the NHS in A&E particularly?
Worst waste of time. Oh God. Worst waste of time, of which there is quite a few, as much as there are obviously a lot of people doing good things. Worst waste of time is when people come in. I feel a bit bad for them, but they come in, right, and they're like, right, what's the problem? And they go, okay, so I've got this pain in my elbow. Right. Oh, when did it start? What happened? Oh, I've had it for two or 3 years. And you're like, well, what brings you to A&E now? Like, someone came in the other day, 4 a.m. Yeah, he came in, and he had pain in his lower back, and I was like, what brings you in at 4 a.m? He's like, it hurt. I was like, yeah, but it's 4 a.m. Have you seen your GP? He's like, yeah, but the GP did nothing, so I come to A&E. And you get about maybe 5% of your patients a day like that, and you're like, man, I feel like,
yeah, what do
you know what I mean? But you try and sort of,
what do they call it? A trauma? Because it's like the actual incident, like what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
When you go into triage, it's like, right, what happened? And then it was like, what do they call it? Like the trauma moment or something like that?
The sort of the moment of injury, like the traumatic bit. So that's what you're expecting to have. So when you get those, you're like, but you know as well, they know and I know. I think what people think is that they can sort of get round their GP and get straight to a hospital and this, that and the other, and you got to disappoint them and send them away. So
you went from NHS A&E. Sorry, you're still in the NHS now, but then you went to. We spoke about this earlier, guys. You worked in a sexual health clinic for a bit as well.
Yeah, I've worked. Yeah,
fun and games. Yeah.
No, that was the thing about that. Yeah, the class thing about that is no matter what happens, you've got to be truthful. Like to the doc, to get the best stuff, you have to be truthful to the doc. So we basically got this massive pro forma where we have to find out everything about your sexual.
What's the man then been up to?
Like, yeah, so you'd get like, man, I had this guy come in, right? You get you know what you get? You get loads of like sort of youngish guys come in. They're like, oh, I have to go to the clinic because I've had a big weekend. Right? I don't know. I can talk. I've heard your podcast. I talk normally, can't I?
Yeah.
So they come in and you go. You literally have to ask every question. You've got to ask like, oh, what type of so-and-so you've had with who, how many people. So you go through and you go, oh, so how many partners have you had this weekend or in the last 3 months? Yeah, and they'll tell you, when was the last time you had it? This weekend. They're like, yeah, well, gas, this, that and the other. I go, was it, penetrative, this, that and the other? They're like, yeah. Was there any sort of, back doors, action, yes or no? Was there any oral? And they're like, yeah. You go, giving or receiving? They're like, what? Like, giving or receiving? They're like, giving. I was like, that's all right, mate. They're like,
each to their own, mate. Each to their own, all right?
Yeah, giving or receiving.
Have you ever had someone in where you go, I've been to Benidorm for the weekend. Oh, what's your activity this weekend? 15, 16.
Yeah. I got what maximum I got was 24.
What from
24?
In what?
One weekend.
24.
Yeah, he was a gentleman who'd been to a.
He wasn't a gentleman.
He'd been to like a chemsex party, and he'd been there since.
What is a chemsex party? Can we do a freeze frame of that little look you did to the camera there in a minute, guys? That was horrible.
Come on, Fuzzy. You know what chemsex is.
So I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's where
all right.
I think it's where a group of people kind of like get together, take loads of drugs and just do it. So he'd been there for 3 or 4 days. He couldn't quite remember, and he said, but to his knowledge, he'd had 24 partners in that weekend. But it wasn't that unusual. He didn't seem to be fazed by it at all. So I don't know what his regular thing was. Because you have to then ask how many partners you've had in the last 3 months. Obviously, it was when I was working there. I don't know if it's changed now. And he was like over 100 and something. You're like,
mate, a 24 weekend sounds like a heavy weekend.
Yeah, and you get, I had another one, right? I'll tell you one more. We had this business guy. He come in. He's like quite suave, like looking guy. Come in, he's like, oh, doc, I've definitely got a problem sort of down below. So you take the history first before you examine. So you ask questions, you go, oh, have you got a regular partner or a wife or this, that, no? He's like, yes. And then you ask, how many partners have you had over the last 3 months? He said 9. I was like, naughty boy, but that's like
not for me to judge.
not judging this, that, and the other. And he was like, so it's my wife's his anniversary or birthday, so I need to get this sorted by then. And that was like in 4 days. Yeah. So he takes down his trousers, and honestly, it looks like he's got a cauliflower in his mouth. I was like, mate, there's nothing I can do for you here. I was like, I don't know what you expect me to do for you here. You need to you just need to confess. He's honestly fuming. He's I need this and that, and I've heard of this treatment. I said, mate, there's no treatment for that now.
That's rotsky. That is absolute rotsky.
For your wife's birthday, you've got a headache, all right? Wow. Go with that one.
I don't know, this is going to take weeks, months to get down.
What was it like?
I think he had warts in it, but he had like super warts, like warts on warts.
Good experience though. I'd say by the sounds of it, it sounds like it stood you in good stead going forward though. Okay, it's like
any experience is a good experience. Yeah. So,
okay, you've done. You've just literally in the last week or so finished Soccer Aid.
Soccer Aid, yeah.
So were you the only doc? Were you the official doc? What how does that work?
So what happens basically? They all meet up like for 4 or 5 days beforehand, like in a hotel, to build up the event, to do promo and to train.
Yeah.
So I was a doctor throughout the whole time, basically. And match day, and then on the match day we had another doctor doing the other team, and I sort of represented the England side. So yeah, it was a good week. I'll tell you what though, most fun week probably my working year. One of the busiest.
Really?
One of the busiest. Like,
what? How? Like, why?
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that have either don't play football regularly, so they go from not training at all to just like, doing 3 or 4 days training in a row. Or more commonly, you get people that like, I'll have an exercise, but then in the 2 weeks building up to Soccer Aid, I started trying to train again, and now my knee hurts, my back hurts, this, that, and the other. So myself, the physio team, were working 10 till 10. Pretty much every day.
Just treatment, rubbing, physio.
Yeah. So it's kind of mad. But what that means though is that like you get a good relationship with like the participants, the talent as they call them, and that the medical room's kind of heaving. It's kind of a good vibe and this, that, and the other.
It's like the little hub, isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly. To be fair, the medical room sort of in most football clubs is exactly the same. It's like the gathering. It's where people always go.
It's like the kitchen in your house.
Yeah, it is. It's literally like the kitchen in your house, isn't it? It's where everybody comes. You know that people are going to be getting treatment. The physios, you always get on with the physios as well. You get on with the doctors, people like that. It's a nice little like atmosphere, isn't it? It's a lovely place kind of thing.
It was class.
And what were they all like, the boys? So there was boys and girls this year, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Actually, there always isn't there, to be fair.
Yeah, last few years, I'm pretty sure, there's boys and girls. But yeah, no, they're all firstly, all like top people. And what I find interesting is like, it's the way that like an event or a common goal can bring people together. Like I'm sitting there watching training. We're kind of myself, like the Lewins and like other medical staff. We're just watching, you're like, hold on. So you've got Kem from
Love Island.
He's trying to take on Roberto Carlos. Roberto Carlos just backheeled it to Usain Bolt. You know what I mean? And then
H is chasing him down.
You know what I mean?
The front,
and then he slid it through to H, and H has just put it top bins.
He's wicked, he is,
against Paddy McGuinness, and it's just like a very like kind of surreal place. Also, athletes and musicians, they've got this weird connection.
Yeah,
I feel like it's always like, musicians really respect and would love to be an athlete, and athletes really respect and would love to be a musician.
Nice.
You hear that a lot, don't you? Like
it's a thing. It's definitely what I've noticed.
NBA, like LeBron and like Jay-Z,
they're always there. Drake, all of them are there, aren't they? All the time, kind of thing.
NFL, NBA, it's
yeah, it's like that, and interestingly, like you people who are born with talent, you get it all. Like people like H, even like Chunks, James Bay, like they can play ball. Tom Grennan, really good footballer.
Really, yeah. I think he was a pro when he was younger though, wasn't he?
He must have been.
He was. I think he was a pro. He did YT, and then I think he played for maybe Norwich or Covell or something for a little bit as well. Yeah,
that makes sense because
he's a player.
Really
he's a player. Yeah,
and equally, a few of you players can sing.
Really,
as well. Mate. Biggest surprise I had there. Clarence Seedorf.
Shut up.
Yeah. So what happens is like in the night time, there's like a social basically, and everyone's sort of
having a few drinks and stuff. Nothing major.
That's a night out.
This sounds incredible. Can I get on this, please, Doc?
Yeah, get him in next year.
I need you to put a word in for me. This sounds like my idea of heaven.
You would have an unbelievable time, and like they'll all just chill, like have a few drinks and like sort of get to know each other more, like build up the week. So you get the singers, they bring out the guitar, there's lots of singing. So who was it? Like Dermot Kennedy was singing for a bit, and then Chelsea Grimes, a few others. And then I'm sitting there sort of talking to someone else, and then someone starts singing Lean On Me, yeah? Proper bass and soul in the voice. I'm like, who is that? Go around the corner, it's Clarence Seedorf. I'm like, this guy, he did a little set, he did some Bob Marley, did everything.
What a ledge.
Proper legend.
What
I'm
a
like,
player
mate,
as well,
you know what I mean? He's won 4 Champions Leagues, and he's singing people out off the you know what I mean, off the stage.
I need to get me involved in this in a couple of years' time.
You've got a little voice on you.
I have not got a voice on me whatsoever, Doc.
Ever heard?
Oh, really?
Tone deaf, Doc. Tone deaf. I'm a good drinker, though.
There we are.
I'm a very good drinker.
Not bad in goal as well, something when you're fit.
Yeah, I could do a bit of the football
You're
stuff.
absolutely fine. Your knees are good. You're all good.
My knees are golden, all right? Absolutely golden.
You'd be unbelievable on that.
I've got years left in me anyway.
And what about like so obviously with soccer aids, it's light-hearted, not too seriously taken too seriously. What about the dynamic in a football club with doctor and players as a general rule? You said that you know the medical room's a bit of a place, but a lot of fans think, myself included to a point, think players do their thing, staff do another thing. What's it like as a doctor?
What do you mean? Do you think like, I get the impression that you and most people think that the doctor sort of has his room and that's
what
it.
You'd think.
Like he's in his room, and if you need something from the doctor, you'd go and see him. No, go on, explain.
It's not like that at all. And to be fair, you know, from the places I've worked, like if you're in, you're the team. Everyone has their role. Like Ben, you know, obviously the players, obviously at the top of the sort of food chain, but equally you're the goalkeeper, but I'm the doctor, but then so and so's the physio. So you all play your part, and we all get kind of treated that way. Like as we said, the medical room kind of like the hub, you know, and particularly if you're part of the medical team, you get to know a lot about the players, about their families, you know, you help them out, you take on sort of secrets for want of a better word. It's definitely not like players and the staff. Players look after us as well, you know, if we've won a big game or something, they'll be like, yeah, come for dinner with us and this, that and the other. Like
I think a lot of people underestimate how important the doctor is in football clubs, because it's almost like they're the psychologist as well. You genuinely are, aren't you? You have to oversee absolutely everything. So like I say, just on a day-to-day basis, for example, Doc he'll be roaming around the physio room. Any injuries that people have got already and they know about, he'll be just going over, and it'll be a catch-up that day. How is it? Does it feel any better? Blah, blah, blah. So he has to do the sports medicine side of it. He also has to do if you're ill, any ailments, kind of stuff like that, you have to prescribe drugs, all that kind of stuff. So he has, and like I say, he has to see the families. He will be talking to people about this, that, and whatever. He has to understand absolutely everything. It's a massively important job, isn't it, Doc?
Well, thanks.
There you go, mate. Done. Pod done. See you later. All right. Well,
most important job at the club.
I mean, obviously I like to feel like I play like a role, you know, myself, the physio team, and this, that, and the other. But the point is, I think people see the end product. You know what I mean? But to get players on the pitch consistently and playing at a level requires the whole team. You know, the sports science, physios, doctor. But obviously the players appreciate that. Internally, the players appreciate that. I've never felt like, I'm trying to get mugged off. But I think externally, people just think that. You get a few, in fairness. You do get a few. I've seen a few players where they're just sort of... They don't. It's almost like they think they're so, because they're footballers. A lot of footballers, not a lot of footballers, but you do get the odd one with the ego, don't you? And it's like where they bowl in, it's just like, you guys are here to serve me. So they'll walk into the physio room and they're like, I've got this injury, have a look at it. And it's like, they want a diagnosis there and then, sort it now and then. And it's like, it don't work like that. Like, I'm a human being, just talk to me normally and naturally, kind of thing. And I'm sure Doc's seen that himself, but it's not always the way, but thankfully it is very few and far between as well. Very few and far between.
And how's COVID been from a doctor's point of view? Because speaking to Fozzie and everything, obviously you've got protocols in place, but it must be a massive headache.
It's just a ball ache. It's just like... You know what? At first, it's all just developed. At first, it was just like no one really knew what they were doing. Remember, like Project Restart, everyone was coming back in. Everyone was very nervous about it, but we just had to sort of figure it out on the fly. And all of a sudden, I had to become the expert of everything. I had to become the virologist. I had to redesign the training ground. One-way system, this, that, and the other. You got to try and lead by example with masks and explain things and this, that, and the other. I think it's calmed down now, But at the time, the last year, it's been really, really difficult to execute, you know what I mean? To execute, to get...
Well, you had to have the answer. I remember, like you say, Project Restart there, you had to have the answers when nobody had the answers.
Literally no one. We were like the first industry to even try
and get back to normality.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think about it that way.
We were pioneering it, basically, the Premier League and obviously and major leagues around the world. It was literally... people still aren't back to offices, are they now?
No.
You know what I mean? So the way we did it, within 2 or 3 months, we were back. Looking back, you got to say fair play to finish that season and to get another season going. The
first game televised back after the lad that scored the first goal was Corona, wasn't it?
No.
Where? His surname. I remember the first game I watched back.
True. Please tell me that.
You're making this up. You are making this up.
Someone fact check it because I can't.
Where? Not in England.
Frank's saying no, that's not true.
You are making this up like you wouldn't believe.
Made that up.
Doc, say like you're in a social setting, right?
Yeah,
and you're somewhere, wherever, and like you're with a couple friends or whatever, and then you meet somebody else you've never met them before, and they will go, "Oh, this is Matt. He's a doctor. Have you? No, not have you. I'm sure it happens. But when you meet new people, do they ever say to you, "Oh, you a doctor, are you?" And you'll go, "Yes," and then they'll go, "Can you just have a look at this, please?"
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, that's literally all the time.
Do they?
One of the two things. You either go, "Are you a doctor?" "Oh no, I don't believe you." You get that, and then you just go,
"Don't believe you."
That happens. I don't know. You don't look like a doctor. I don't know what that means. But I get that's probably around 40% of the time, and then the 55% of the time is that like, "Oh, can you just feel this lump?" The other day, it happened in soccer. I won't name the name, but someone high profile person introduced me to their wife, and they go, "Oh, is you a doctor?" "Oh, mate, I've been meaning to get to a doctor about this lump." I mean, I'm feeling their neck like in the middle of this like thing, and I you know what I mean, it just probably looked a bit funny as well. But you get that often. "Oh, can you just have a look at this?" "Oh, what's that?" "Oh, I had this situation." "Oh, what do you think of that?" "Oh, can you just run me a prescription?" That's the funny one.
Oh, that's the one. No, I bet.
That's
Doc, stop telling my secrets, mate. We don't talk about this, all right?
Yeah.
So you get that, yeah.
And what have you ever seen? Kind of, you know, when obviously anybody now, if they got any kind of injury, illness, or they feel this, that, or whatever, they'll just go on Google. They'll go on Google and they will scare the living daylights of them out of themselves.
Yeah, but the problem is, though, it can be common cold, a cut elbow, and the answer is always cancer.
Dead. You're basically dead.
You're dying.
Unlucky.
Yeah, that's the thing. But you know what the thing is of that, right? Is like going on Google and sort of getting an impression is fine. But if you go on Google and then you've decided it's Google before you've seen me. So if someone's like Googled something,
yeah, that's annoying.
No, it's actually that. Some will go, "Okay, thank you, you've reassured me," but most will go, "Yeah, but how do you know?" And you're like, "Yeah, I know because but you haven't even scanned me, you haven't even done blood tests." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's what like our trading's for." So it's just like, and they just won't have it. Like,
do you ever have someone go like, "But Google said"?
Yeah, that's what they'll lead with. They're like, "Oh, I saw online this." I've had printouts.
So they really challenge you and stuff. And
yeah. And I think, to be fair, like, because of just the nature of the NHS and the system, some people feel like as doctors we're holding back on them, like, "Oh, we're trying to save money on scans, save money on this and that." So they feel like they have to go in strong to try and get what they need. So I actually understand that.
Yeah, you can understand it.
I can relate to that.
Yeah,
because this is probably going to be one of the patients that you hate. I don't
hate any patients.
I don't. just saying. Doc hates everyone. It's fine. Everyone. No, I went in, and I go in very, very infrequently, but I kind of went in and I'd stored 3 things up, and I was like, right, so I've got this, that,
you're that guy,
and that. But I felt like I had a selling job on them. I was like, I had a PowerPoint out going, like, you know, what I've got here is, but that was frustrating.
Yeah, people, you know, and I actually completely understand it, because it's just the nature of the industry, of like the system. They feel like, oh, you know, they got to make sure it's important. And I do tell my colleagues, I say, listen, like, sometimes when you think something's a waste of time, to that person who's not a doctor, the same like if I bring in an electrician and a plumber, they might come into my house and go, "Mate, it's just the fuse is gone." But to me, I didn't know.
You haven't got a clue. Come on, tell me the biggest one.
This is a good story. And that's a story, I don't know if you know it. I won't name the name, right? But there was a certain individual, right? Okay. Towards the end of the season, this player got like a minor injury, okay? But he's called up for international duty, okay? So he's gone. He said he's just going to be with the team because he wants to stay in contention.
Minor injury, what?
minor injury, little muscle injury, you know, he could continue. So he goes. So I get a WhatsApp from like a mate with like a news story saying like, oh, so-and-so's got injured on international duty. And I was like, oh, I didn't know about that. I didn't know he's not supposed to be playing. Okay, fine, right? So call up the doctor, international doctor, and I say, what happened? He goes, so he's got this injury, blah, blah, blah. So we go, okay, so what's the plan? So he said, okay, we'll decide the plan. So left it for a bit. Basically, it transpired. He told us, I then talked to the player. The player said, I'm going to stay here and rehab. Okay, so I was like, great. Okay, we'll catch up in a couple of weeks. Enjoy being in your home country and with your team. Okay, right. Okay, 2 weeks passed. Cool. 2 weeks passed, right? We call the doctor of that team to be like, oh, you know, we didn't get an update. The doctor goes, he told us he's gone back to the club to rehab.
Oh, this is brilliant.
No.
Right? So we were like, what? So this player, like, we calling him this, that and the other, completely
Does he live Mauritius by any chance?
Completely MIA. Eventually we have to go to the club, and the club like somehow contact the agent who contacts the player. Player calls up fuming, this, that and the other. Oh, you know, you've told the club about what I've done. I'm going to get fined now, you know, this, that and the other. We're like, where are you? He goes, I'm in Miami.
I know exactly what this is. And it is world class. What a story.
You know what I mean? I was like, Miami, what have you been doing? He's like, yeah, I've been rehabbing in Miami.
Yeah, right.
We're like,
2 weeks in Miami. How good is it?
He's like 3 kilos.
He'd been in Miami for 3.5 weeks.
No.
Rehabbing, yeah. So we come back, we repeat the scan. It's like the duttiest scar. You know, and like, because people think we don't know. It's like, you see it, it's just like 8 centimetre scar, like no rehab, no nothing, no like muscles come back. Yeah, and then I don't know if
that's world class. Yeah, that is really. I do remember that actually. Yeah. That's very, very good.
I know you know who it is.
I was proud of him as well.
Proud of him.
Right. Okay, Doc. So what are you doing now? So you're not at Watford anymore. So what are you doing now then?
Yeah, I'm working in international football at the moment. I'm working with some of the development teams for an international team. So it's a good change.
Development team. What age is that? So
I'm mainly for the under 16s. So as they're coming through, I've done a bit of under 17 stuff. So hopefully, if obviously I'm lucky enough to stay on, it'll be like a cycle, they call it. So you do 16s, 17s, 18s. They'll do, you know, international tournaments and stuff. So looking forward to like a different challenge.
What's the difference between working in that arena compared to working in a Premier League football club? With men, obviously working with like a full squad of sort of senior players as opposed to working with a 16, 15, 16-year-old.
Yeah, it is different. It's different. I think the main difference is the emphasis. The emphasis is on development rather than results necessarily. Obviously, you still want the results, but whereas in sort of first team men's football, it's 100% all about the outcome, all about results. Whereas I would say it's about 60% here, and the rest is, you know, did they play well? Are they healthy? Are they fit? How are they developing? Things like that. So that's the major difference, and that allows us to takes the pressure off a little bit, allows us to make sure we're doing things, you know, structured and in the right way, and, you know, not taking too many risks. So it's like, it's a different kind of setup for me as well. Having said that, I think the big challenge is going to be in an international tournament, because I think what will happen when the emphasis switches so quickly from development to having to win, having to get through games. I don't know, for some of these players that might be new to them. And secondly, getting so many games in a short period of time with younger athletes, the pressures on myself and the physio team and the things we have to do will change, you know? Because if they've got a knock now in like sort of friendly camps, you kind of send them back to the club. You do bits and send them back to the club. But if you're abroad and you're on a tournament and you've got a game in 2 days, you know, questions then start to be asked, okay, what risk level is tolerated? What do you think the issue is? X, Y, and Z. And then it's back to all the stuff we spoke about earlier about sort of long term, middle term, short term, right now, you know, and those are the type of decisions that I'm.
Have you, even at that age, at 16, do you see any kind of little divas, anyone wanting excess sort of treatment, or kind of like say the same sort of thing? I've been told it might be this, so do you know what I mean? Can you treat it or something?
So far, to be fair, they've been quite good. They've been quite humble and respectful. I've been told that when they break through, when you get the youngsters who've broken through to the first team, then it might get a bit tricky. These guys are at the moment, they're 15, 16. They're really still like kind of green, and they haven't trained with the first team. They're not getting that star treatment at their club, so they're not really expecting anything on the international camp. Like I got the ultrasound out the other day to scan someone, and they were like, "Oh, what's that?" And I was thinking in my head, and that was every day, innit? That was every day at Watford. So interesting to see how they develop, because it's definitely 1 or 2 stars in the group, and when they come through and start playing for the first team.
Yeah, that would be interesting when they're on friggin', you've got 17, 18 year olds on 20 bags a week.
exactly. And
they're going, just give me it, all right? Just shut up and give it me. And there's you done friggin' 6 years at uni.
It's all game ready. It's one on each limb.
And you just want to get them and go, you little dickhead.
It's when they go from their little backpack to the wash bag. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton one.
To their LV wash bag. You're like, right, okay, they've made it then.
Big time now. Right, Doc, we've got a couple more things to chat about. Cool. When you talk just then about long-term injuries, this is something me and Fozzie had a good chat about, because it's really interesting to hear your perspective on it. Heading the ball in football and concussions.
Very topical at the moment. Very topical.
Yeah, massively.
What's your thought process on this?
Have you had to have some sort of input or been spoke about this or talk about this or anything?
Well, not regarding like the bigger picture, but I get a lot of questions about it. Actually, only people that haven't asked me about it actually is footballers. I don't know what the sort of intra-footballer thoughts on it are, but within like sort of the medical profession, we're doing a lot of research. I've been invited to do some research on it, and there's lots going on. My thoughts on it are genuinely, I don't know, because 2 reasons. Firstly, I don't know how much you can compare football, how it was, to how it is now. Yeah. Like I actually did a video on my YouTube channel about this recently. Interesting facts to note. Like for example, back then when they used to use the raw leather hide football on these really wet pitches, by the end of the game, the weight of the ball was twice what it started. Twice. Wow. That is crazy.
And they were heavier balls anyway.
And they were heavier balls. And that is like crazy to think about. Yeah. And then if you also think about sort of the way the game's played, particularly at the top level, probably less heading than there was, and this, that and the other. So I don't know if the research from before can be applied to the footballer of now. Yeah. With that having been said, the research is there, and it says that there's an association between football, heading the ball, and being 3, 4, 5 times more likely.
Wow.
To get them like 5. That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot. You know what I mean?
Because it's not an uncommon thing anyway.
It's not an uncommon thing anyway. So for footballers to have that increased risk is very unusual and a bit disturbing. So it's one of those where, as a league, as like sort of a medical body, what do you do? Like, do you say, it's probably not, and leave it, and then you get another cohort of footballers with dementia? Or do you do something now to at least, try something, see if you can do something, be the guy who makes the tough decisions now about limiting heading, but then in 20 years, that's kind of the convention, that's the culture.
It would be a completely different sport, wouldn't it?
It would be, but...
Completely.
I'm telling you, the one group I haven't really heard from before, it might be my fault for not doing the research, is the players I'm interested in. I honestly think with time, they're going to try and phase out heading as much as they can. If I was just to predict, this is just my pure opinion, I reckon there'll be a future where it's only heading on set pieces. That's what I reckon. Because I'm trying to think, that's just me sort of reasoning what the balance would be between completely cancelling heading versus versus...
It's interesting because I'm being a goalkeeper, it's not something I've ever had to worry about. I don't head the ball ever. Do you know what I mean? But I think I see in training, like obviously because it's so topical, and it's made me perked my interest a little bit. So I make a point of watching out for how much people will actually head the ball. Yeah. And in training, they are still heading it an awful lot. Do you know what I mean? Especially the centre backs. Strikers might do a little bit of it when it comes to sort of finishing or in games, but the majority is the centre backs, is the defenders.
Any team playing against Tony Pulis.
Yeah, and they're not just heading little light balls. I'm not talking about the weight of the ball. I'm talking lumped balls, like balls from the goalkeeper down to the 80 yards up the pitch and stuff like that. And
so look at the way corners are taken these days. They're absolutely whipped in.
All sorts driven.
And the research has done it. Remember, there was like a research study where they put like mouth guards on players just to see the amount of force that's going through the head, and they think that the forces going through their head are unacceptable and unacceptably high. So like I honestly don't know. I don't know where it's going, and I don't know I don't know what you do with that data, but the more data you have, it's just very difficult to ethically
to ignore it. Exactly.
It's easy from an armchair to be like, oh, he's ruining the game. Everyone should, but if you're in charge of looking after the players, looking after the sport, you've got big decisions to make. So I understand it both ways. Removing heading from the game will change the game, and I think it'll be very difficult for certain teams and certain styles of play.
Yeah.
And it would really start to favour sort of the bigger, more technical teams. But you can't do nothing if you think there's a risk. You know what I mean? Like if in 30, 40 years, the colleagues you worked with, the defenders you worked with, good mates, at 50, 60 start losing their memory and stuff,
scary.
You'd start thinking, well, all the stuff they did, was it worth it? Was it, so I'm a big proponent for player care, because I think players give a lot and a lot is expected of them. So I'm a big proponent that we need to do our little bit to make sure they're all right.
Another thing that I think is quite topical as well is concussion. So being a player myself, it's such a difficult one for doctors and medical people to try and sort of police, really, I suppose, because I've seen it in games where people have been knocked out. Players have been actually knocked out. You can tell they've gone. You can see their eyes roll in the back of their head. They've gone. And they've carried on and played the game. People, the medical team have come onto the pitch and are you okay? Yeah. Were you out? No. It looked like you were out. You were, you know what I mean? No, I'm fine. But the player, this is where the responsibility will fall on the player. But it's difficult because a lot of players especially, are just more like, no, I'm fine. Just crack on with it, kind of thing.
It's really difficult. But to be fair, like, we've really tried. So firstly, we've got Hawkeye now. So Hawkeye, basically, there's, for those who don't know, like, each club, you normally have to have a doctor on the bench, but like another doctor, like in a room somewhere, looking at replays. Exactly. So they look at the replay. So nowadays we'll get a radio through if the player was knocked out.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that will help us. And secondly, it's about player education and coach education. Like I'm hoping, if not now, in the next few years, the days of players wanting to stay on after being knocked out are gone. You know what I mean? Like, that they can hold their hand up and say, listen, I'm pretty sure I was KO'd there, like, let me just step out of this game. And then equally the coaches know that, they're not just throwing in the towel. No, they were knocked out. This is like a real thing.
I had one, I don't know if you were a doctor at the time, but I had one a couple years ago. It was against Leicester at Watford, and they played a quick free kick.
It's you and Vardy.
It was me and Vardy, it was they played a quick free kick. Jamie Vardy's made a run, sprinted in. I've come out to come and punch it. I've got the punch on it, but he didn't see me coming, so we've clashed heads. He's actually banged my jaw, give me a big old cut on the jaw. But I kind of, as I'm falling down, I almost think I blacked out a little bit, but I wasn't sure. I didn't know. And I remember you lot coming on the pitch and you were like, you all right? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And you went, did you black out? And I was like,
you don't even know.
No. But I said no. I remember saying no, but I wasn't sure. But then afterwards, I was talking to my wife about it on the way home and stuff. And she was like, well, what happened? I saw that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm fine. She was like, are you sure? And I'm like, I think so, yeah, but like genuinely, that for me it's the same sort of thing though. I'm that ilk. Yeah. I'm that ilk where I will want to just play on. I will want to just play on, but I think we have to start talking about it seriously though.
Yeah.
Because the more you talk about it, the more, like you say, in future it might happen to somebody else, and they might have heard this conversation or another conversation and gone, yeah, I should have just come off, or I will come off. If something happens again, I will come off.
Yeah, and I think. Not to sort of transfer the responsibility, but I think the power can come from like the social proofing of player to player. Like, you know what I mean? Like if it gets to a point where obviously you're like an older player now, so I'd like to think like if your left back thought they were knocked out and was trying to be brave, you'd be like, no, you've been an idiot.
I think I would now.
You know what I mean?
I think I would. That one instance has really changed my perspective.
I remember that clash, and I remember actually asking for the video I've probably still got it on like an old laptop or whatever. I was looking through it. That was a hefty clash actually, but you seem to kind of recover well. But yeah, again, it's really, really tough. Like I dread to think what doctors are going through in rugby.
Oh yeah,
it's like
that's a different conversation.
Wow. I think it's the good, the bad, and the rugby. James Haskell, and he was saying about when he finished, and he was in bits. I think he paid himself private to, not by the club,
for scans, brain scans.
I think he had like a new hip or new knee. And
okay.
It was like
brand new.
It was. I can't quite remember, but it was like, and they were talking about it, and like they talked to him and another player, and were kind of saying it wasn't really talked about, but he said he was having to peel himself out of bed every single day in bits, and it wasn't spoken about. And then I think when he retired, they'd said about, oh, did you? And he goes, oh, I was exactly the same. And they were like, oh, Jesus Christ! Well, at least I'm not the only one. And why didn't we like tell each other about it or something?
But as a player, though, it must be difficult for you guys. I've not really had a conversation with a player like this, so this is interesting for me too. Like, at what point do you think I'm going to give up my career? Well, I've done my whole life. You know what I mean? Like, what level of pain, and like, if you think, okay, I wake up with pain, but I can play through it. But is it the right thing to play through it? Probably not. But it's my career, so I'll make my bread, like, I think that's what it is. I don't think it enters your mind to think I'm going to stop. I don't think it does, because you're constantly thinking about that next contract. Where's that next contract going to come from? Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily probably Premier League, but I'm sure lower leagues especially, where you're thinking, if I don't play and my stats for playing aren't up there high, another team won't want to sign me at the end of the season.
What if you're a League 2 player, let's say a middling League 2 player? You're not earning 10 grand a week, 15 grand a week, nowhere near that. And you think, what's the backup plan? Because actually, rugby's interesting. Where we are at Mill Street, you get some of the Wasps lads in, and a lot of them, I think the club are really big on development and developing their other skill sets. I know some of them are working as training as plumbers, like solicitors and all that kind of thing. But if you're like a League 2 footballer, I don't think that's as common in the football industry, is it?
No, for sure. It's like you just put all your eggs in one basket and hope that you might at some point get that big move, that big contract.
28, 29 and you're struggling.
What are you going to do? It's tough. And as a doctor, I don't know if it's my place to say, mate, you should retire. Like, I can give the information, I think I can give the information and say, your body is getting battered. And I think maybe more doctors and physios should have maybe a yearly checkup or something, a review, and just like a yearly medical, or every 2 years something, and say, listen, this has changed for this. You've had 5 injuries in the last season, just keeping you up to date. But again, I don't know if that then undermines the confidence of the player. I genuinely don't know. It's a really tough
you got to dance around it almost. It is. It's difficult. Okay, let's leave the serious stuff. We always have to have a little bit of serious. I like it though. It's nice. YouTube.
Yes.
Talk to me about Doc in the arena.
Yeah, mate, it was, what it was? For a start, it was for 2 reasons. So basically, I started up this YouTube channel while I was working with you, actually, and I was just getting so many questions about different things during COVID time in particular. How's this going to work? How's that going to work? Just from friends, family, X, Y, and Z. So it was the first time in my life I thought, people are actually quite interested in what I do, that kind of side of it, outside of just the games, just the further information. So I thought maybe talking about the medical aspects, the physical aspects might be an interesting way to go. But it wasn't actually until after I watched the Last Dance, that documentary, and it was talking about all the mental side of Michael Jordan and this, that and the other, that I just thought, after that, because he was so amazing on a mental level, I actually then just independently did my own research on is this really a thing? How much can your mental side affect your physical side? And then there was loads of research about it. And when I was reading, I was like, mate, I've got to share this with someone. I was reading it thinking, this is so interesting. So then I just started it up basically, and got a little bit of traction. And I realized that I think people who like sports and who like physical activity, if you like it, you just kind of like all aspects of it. It all adds to the picture.
Well, that's why we've got you on today, really, Doc, isn't it? Because people want to see the inside track. They want to see the doctor's perspective, the physio's perspective, the chief exec, every aspect of it.
The bus driver's perspective.
Big Basler.
Shout out Big Basler.
I shouted out the other day, 27k.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my God, Basler's killing it.
So you realise that, and as well, I was consuming a lot of YouTube, and you think, actually, after a while, you're like, why not be a producer as well?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why just consume? If you think you're useful, because a lot of people just, they go on YouTube for whatever. But if you feel like, actually, I've got a skill set here, I've got an interest, let me contribute to the YouTube community, in another way. I love YouTube, so I thought being able to contribute was cool.
It's really good content. I was watching it and I look at it and go, we're not medical people, but I look at it and say it's broken down in a way.
For the layman terms.
Yeah.
Layman, exactly that. Yeah.
But I can understand it in its entirety. Yeah. And because it's related to sport and Conor McGregor, and you go, okay, that's interesting. And Christian Eriksen, all of the big sporting injuries you'll cover. Yeah, and it's just really interesting. It's not good. Really out there, is it?
You're not sitting at home, are you, waiting for the next big injury, are you? Was it? And when you hear about it, go, yes, come on, let's get in the studio now.
No. You know what? Now, actually, I had a little chat with you actually a month or so ago. Actually, gave me a little pep talk, and I think I'm now just sort of opening up my mind to just talk. As people just like sport, they like talking about football, they like talking about. So I just sort of open up my opinions to things, and from my point of view, and things. Obviously, I'm going to say I think it's interesting.
It is,
but
guys.
I think it contributes. You know what I mean? I think it adds something. So
like I say, we'll put a link in the description down below. Go over and have a little look at some of his videos. Some of the biggest injuries in the last couple of years, he's made a video of them, broken them down, told us exactly how they happened, why they might have happened, and how they're going to recover from it. It's a belter, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Doc, cheers. Enjoyed that, mate.
I really enjoyed it. Oh my goodness. You're lucky you get to do this every week.
I know, it's class, isn't it?
It's really cool.
Content creator, youngest Premier League doctor ever, absolute legend. Doc, thanks for coming in, mate.
I really appreciate it.
Before we go, we need to do Up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast.
Up the Fozcast.
Another poshy.
Posho.
Sorry. Up the Fozcast.
See you guys. We'll see you next time.
Brilliant.